All right, gentlemen, we're off to another rousing start of Pillow Talk with myself, Andy, Dave, and a special guest star, Nick. Big penis man. We all love him.
I do.
Nick,
Nice.
we have a tradition here on the podcast where every episode we like to start off by saying one very deep, just emotionally scarring secret that you may or may not have. And since you're the guest of today's show, I would like you to start first.
Deep.
Well,
Fucking.
had I known about that ahead of time, I could have thought of something.
You know, Nick's life's perfect. He has nothing scarring.
No. Oh, God, you couldn't be more wrong about that.
And clearly you have something, so why aren't you saying anything?
I've masturbated at work before.
Oh, who hasn't?
Nice.
And
Okay.
yeah, I'm proud of it.
That's cool. I'm glad we got that out in the open. So
What a great way to start this very special episode about Final Fantasy VII.
So yeah.
While the rest of the internet is still going off about The Last of Us 2, here we are going all the way back to the FF7 remake because
something arguably more enjoyable.
Something more worth discussing.
Well, kick us off, Dave.
So, all of us but Roger have beaten it, but
I don't give a shit about the spoilers.
Yeah, Roger doesn't give a shit about the spoilers. He's played it, so that's the important part.
In case we don't have to preface it here, spoilers from here on out.
Yes.
You've been warned, yada yada yada, suck a monkey. All right, go.
So we all have some thoughts, and we're gonna dedicate this episode to letting those yeah, we're just gonna lay those thoughts on the table and have at it, boys. Final Fantasy VII Remake. What did we think?
Well, just to start out, I mean, I enjoyed it. I did. I had my problems with it, and overall, I thought it was pretty solid. Which I honestly, when I heard about it, how long did they announce this? This is originally back for the PS3. Was this 5 more years ago?
I think it's been in active development since 2015, from what I heard.
Okay, yeah. So
I don't remember exactly when they announced it, but yeah, it's been a long time.
When they first announced it, I kind of rolled my eyes because we all know about Square just milking FF7 for the longest time. And
I mean, they kind of had me taken aback when they formally announced it because, it had been on the rumor mill for God knows how fucking long, ever since that little tech demo for the PS3.
Yeah, before the PS3 even came out.
But I just...
they've clarified that was just a tech demo, that Zelda for the Wii thing, and or was the GameCube?
It was the GameCube, I think you're thinking of, but yeah.
Yeah, they clarified it was just a tech demo, but people were flying off the handle about it. And then, I mean, I was one of the people who was like, they're not going to fucking do it. And plus, they've even said they don't want to do it because, fan expectation is going to be so fucking high that there's no way they're going to be able to please everybody with it. So they were kind of leaning towards not doing it. And then, well, here it is. Egg on my face.
Yeah, my thing was, I always knew, if they were to remake it entirely with modern standards, that would be, an astronomical amount of resources and time for something that's essentially that already exists. So it just makes more sense to focus on original projects. But that's why I think they did the right decision by releasing it in parts, because they were able to just kind of focus on a little bit at a time.
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword there, because while, they can put a lot more into these individual installments, they kind of inflated this one with a lot of extra parts, and some of them are good.
Yeah, some of it's good. Some of it does feel like obvious padding, though. But
yeah,
there are some things that I did really like. When you first, when you blow up the reactor in the beginning, you actually kind of see, the immediate effects it has on the people that live in Midgar. You are literally a terrorist organization that just blew up a power plant. And, it did result in chaos. But in the original, it was kind of glossed over. You barely even talk about it.
There's a lot of stuff that you have to kind of infer from the original, or really just kind of make up for yourself, honestly. And this kind of expands on a lot of that. And I do find a lot of that fun.
I very much appreciated how Midgar feels more like a living, breathing place this time. I mean, obviously the limitations of the technology of the PS1 era.
Yeah.
There's only so much you could do, but I'll preface this entire podcast by saying that I was not the biggest fan of the original. Like, I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't one of those games that, rocked my world like it did for just about everybody else. So,
like, it's not my favorite Final Fantasy, but it's definitely up there, like, probably in my top 5.
Yeah, I'll say, like, it's not my favorite Final Fantasy either, but I am just a big fan of, like, the PS1 era, like,
Yeah.
of RPGs in general. And Final Fantasy VII is one of those games that kind of, it's not the game that got me into RPGs, but it is the one that kind of showed me, like, the true potential that the genre had. Like, it was the first time I played one, like, of that scope. And not to mention, I played it, during my formative years.
Yeah, well, I remember watching.
That's why it kind of stuck with me, more than games that I played, like, a year ago or so.
I remember watching you play it, and, like, that was before I was really into RPGs, and that's kind of actually, that is what kind of kept me away from them, because it kind of seemed intimidating to me. And then finally, when I got into it, it wasn't really that bad.
Right.
I mean, like, you guys remember when I played it was.
I know you played it kind of years later.
Yeah,
it was back in high school because I borrowed it from one of you guys. Like, I basically got on the PlayStation train way late. I remember borrowing it, and I finished it, and it's like, yeah, that was all right.
Well, okay, I would like to. I mean, if we're gonna go into nostalgia for like liking this stuff, like the point I like to make here is, like, yes, there definitely is nostalgia for a lot of those old games for me, but at the same time, years later, I played Final Fantasy V for the first time. This was maybe only a couple of years ago. I played it for the first time, and that one I absolutely loved, and I still like. It's now in one of my top favorite ones, and there's nostalgia has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, that's just a sign of a solid game in general, then.
Yeah.
Well, like, I'm pretty sure I didn't play FF9 until after I played FF7, and like that was fairly late by the standards of when the game came out, but that was still reasonably early on, and I had something direct to compare it to, and like FF9 I think holds up better than the original FF7 did.
Oh, I mean, well, I'm on the record as 9 being my absolute favorite.
Yeah,
so I will, and I recognize 9's flaws too, especially last time I played that one. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about that FF7 remake. But
point being nostalgia and all that. Like,
yeah, but
what's a solid game? What holds up? What doesn't?
What kind of ties into that though is like what I was saying earlier about how I kind of rolled my eyes when they finally announced this was actually happening, because I was just like, oh boy, like I don't know, I didn't care at the time. I was just kind of tired of Final Fantasy VII, and then we get like getting closer and closer to the game, and we were seeing more, and I still wasn't into it until Mark texts me, and he's like, "Did you see like the most recent trailer?" I'm like, "No," and he's like, "Dude, they put in the atomic can opener or the atomic scissors," and I just texted back. I'm like, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." Like that's kind of what made me realize, I'm like, okay, if they're gonna keep in that stupid weapon for Barrett, there's something like I don't know how to explain it. Like that kind of the attention to the old game.
That they're embracing even the more ridiculous acts of it.
Yeah,
like it shows that they have a true like love for the original.
Yeah, and that's just kind of what sold me on it, and that was much closer when it was coming out too. And I remember you guys talking about there's the Hell House fight, because that's just kind of like a ridiculous thing to throw in there.
I know,
that was a fucking throwaway random enemy originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just a regular enemy.
Well,
they do that a lot in that game. They just
embraced it wholeheartedly by turning him into a full-fledged boss and making this whole spectacle out of it.
Well, it's the same thing with that fucking like I forget the name of it, but it's like that like cyber eel thing that you fight like way towards the end.
Like that saw
yeah, because I was like thinking about that enemy, and I'm like, when is he going to show up? And then like they make it into this like big boss battle. But yeah,
like going into things that I really liked about it was it definitely did show a lot of love for the original by embracing what I can only describe as 90s RPG weirdness.
Or just Final Fantasy weirdness.
Shit like the Hell House, the fucking Pipeheads.
Oh, hell yeah,
Pipeheads. They included a goldfish poop gang that just kept harassing you throughout the story, but amounted to absolute fuck all.
Those guys were hilarious. I like those guys.
The fucking Honeybee Inn and how ridiculous all of that was. The gym, just so much weird shit that it doesn't really make sense in this like pseudo realistic looking context that they're placing it in, but they don't care. They're just fucking rolling with it.
Well, that's the thing too.
That doesn't make any. That looks retarded as all hell if you think about it. But then you just realize, no, this is just fucking weird RPG shit. Like,
well, that's like it's much more noticeable now because like in the old game, it's an older style. You just kind of go with it. Especially, well, this is one of my big things too, is voice acting in Final Fantasy games. It started with 10. Like, when you're just reading this stuff in a text box, it's you just kind of roll with it. It doesn't seem stupid. But then when you're hearing people actually talk about this shit, then it gets really dumb. Like, really stupid. And, I mean, I'm still okay with it. I can see people having more of a problem with it. But, like, it's a real crazy thing to see with like Final Fantasy VII because now you really start to notice just how kind of really weird the story is, and then they kind of change that too.
Well, I think delivery has a huge part to play in it because I've definitely heard that complaint before from others, but I actually had, I don't know, I didn't have an issue with it because, like I said, it just embraced how fucking weird some of this shit was and just rolled with it. Like the delivery of everybody doing all the voice acting, they just let it fucking roll out there. And if you have a problem with it, well, then that's on you. They're just treating this shit like it's normal.
Yeah, I think that's what I kind of liked about it because like I was expecting it to be worse when I first heard about all this, but it just like I said, I feel like the stupidity is just so much more glaring. But I like that.
Yeah,
it's like you say, they just embrace it. So
yeah, it brought back very nostalgic feelings, like not even specifically of FF7, because like I said, don't have that much nostalgia for it, but just the concepts in general, just that weird shit, and they just embrace it. They just roll with it. It's like, this is the way the world is. Deal with it.
I mean, well, that's a good way to build the world, is to embrace that and treat everything like that is commonplace. But let's story, like, I want to talk about the gameplay. Because, like, how did you feel about the gameplay exactly?
So,
as far as, like, the combat's concerned, like, yeah, it is a lot of fun, even if there is a little bit of a learning curve, because you have to get used to switching between the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
Also, I was happy that they kept the materia system mostly, like, similar to how it was in the original, because like, obviously there's new materia and there's materia that's not there, and the way summon materia works different too. But
yeah, that was I don't know why, like, it just seems stupid, but I just didn't even expect there to be new materia.
I mean, it makes sense.
It's nice that it's
so different that they need new materia to accommodate it. Like the deadly dodge materia, that would make no sense in the original, but obviously it makes sense in a more action-oriented game.
Well, like, that's something I appreciated. Was one of my biggest fears of them doing a remake was that they were just gonna, like, do fucking one-to-one shit and use the same old combat system, and at that point, what would have been the purpose?
Well, I know it's like a lot of people were saying, like, oh, just keep everything the same, just update the graphics. But it's like, if you're going to do that, you might as well just play the PC
game
and install some mods or something. Then
which
there you
already
go.
exist.
Yeah, and then there you go. You have exactly the same, just better graphics. So it's better that they, just kind of reimagined it from the ground up and made it into something really modern.
Well,
I think if it was just a theoretical Final Fantasy 16, like it had nothing to do with FF7, but still had the same systems in place, like, I would be pretty decently satisfied with it.
Well, I mean, honestly, like, I really fucking liked the combat. It felt like this is what FF15's combat wanted to be.
But yeah, it just wasn't quite there yet. Like, I hear you, because FF15 still felt like, I mean, it was definitely an improvement over 13, but it still felt kind of like almost automatic. like you didn't have as much control. Whereas in this one, it feels like you have more full control over what happens, and you still have to be constantly on your toes, keeping your party healed up and using, like maximizing your party's potential too, with their limit breaks and stuff like that.
Don't mean to interrupt you boys, but poor Andy there. Looks like he's having internet issues. I told him to shut his mouth.
Oh, should we just like pause until he gets back then?
No, just keep talking. He'll just jump back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's things I want him to hear about this stuff though, but yeah.
Or we can. There he is.
Hey, he's back.
Welcome back, sweetheart.
Figures.
Well, what was the last thing you heard us talking about?
Well, we were talking about the new materia. So I don't know if you heard me talking about the dodge attack materia at all.
Yeah.
That's really the last thing.
Okay. Yeah, then after that we kind of went on to talk about like how this is what FF15's combat system was trying to be, but wasn't quite there yet.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up too, because I was a little afraid of that. That's one of the things I was also skeptical about, was just like seeing how I was afraid the combat was just going to look flashy but have no real substance to it. But
like Kingdom Hearts, but that's
a really good job of keeping you on your toes. Like you have to like that was one of the things that actually took me a long time to get used to. I didn't really get the combat until like the fucking Leviathan fight. But then that's when it clicked with me, the different things I had to take into account when approaching a battle, switching between party members a lot more frequently than you would expect. It does a really good job of actually keeping you active and doing things.
Which is a problem that the series has kind of had since 12. Like since 12 is when they first started making things a lot more automatic. And like now they've kind of finally hit the sweet spot where like sure you have AI controlled companions, but I mean if you want to get the most out of everything, you do have to put in genuine effort into, utilizing not only the main character but your companions as well.
I've got thoughts on FF12 combat, especially because it trails into Xenoblade, which I've been replaying again with the definitive edition. Like there kind of is. I was pretty fucking not hot on that idea before too, but there's something to be said about that like offline MMO style combat in that it's it is a lot of letting the game play itself, but if you look at it this way, in that like FF12, the Gambit system, it was all about how you set up and spec your party to do the things that you want to do.
Like the automatic stuff was
like it's like I get the whole thing about how it doesn't feel like you're very active, but if you really think about it, it's not too different in that the Gambit system is basically you setting up your party to tell them to do the things that you want them to do.
Yeah, that took me a while to wrap my head around, but like now
I really
like
doing the same. I thought that was a bad thing, but
it's more about
in like
same thing yourself.
It's more about the strategy, really.
Yeah,
and like that's something that like I'm not really too good at strategizing with that kind of stuff, but I can understand the appeal.
Yeah. Well, so like you're still technically doing the same thing you would have been doing if you were actively pushing the buttons in the menu. It's just this time you're front loading everything.
Yeah.
Well,
with prior planning, and there's some satisfaction in that, and I do definitely see how some people won't see that. I
didn't mean to give the impression that I had a problem with it. The thing, I do agree with you. Like games like that, the true gameplay is done in the menus before the battle even starts. If you think about it, it's similar to like in the original FF7, like 99% of the battles was just you pressing the attack command until the battle's over. Yeah. So now it's like they kind of made it so it's not like
RPGs.
Now they just kind of do that for you, but instead, the real meat of the gameplay is like done in the menu, setting your party up. And if your party isn't set up properly, you're gonna lose. You're gonna have a bad time.
Well, I mean,
but like I said, I think FF7 Remake really kind of hit a sweet spot where like it's still all about setting up your party ahead of time, but you still have to put a lot of conscious effort during the battles too.
My one thing though is like it's still at its core like turn-based in a way, and there's like stuff that helped. I had a hard time wrapping my head around this too, because like I was trying to dodge a lot of things that just could not be dodged. Like dodging is more for like the physical attacks and stuff. But like I'd see like someone would use like a magic thing, I mostly noticed this during the fight with Shiva.
Shiva was this fight I wanted to mention because that one's like you pretty much have to use like set up your defenses. Like I had to put like that. Oh, I forget the name of the material that basically halves damage when you guard. I put that up and asked to put elemental on your armor. And like, you do that and something that's like, it completely changes the dynamic of the fight.
Well, like the point I'm trying to make is just that like, she'd be like shooting like ice shit at you. And I'd be like, okay, I see you coming at me. And I'd try and dodge. And it just continues to home in on you and hit you anyways. And like, it didn't really occur to me. I'm like, oh, like I'm not supposed to dodge that. I need to guard instead. But it comes from playing shit like Dark Souls and stuff that I think that I can just dodge if I just do it at the right time.
Well, that's like you said, at its core, it's still an RPG. Whereas
that's what I'm saying. It's like still at its core, that's what it is. And that's what's kind of weird about doing that. Like, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but like that's what it's like when you mix this action and RPG, it kind of like confuses my brain a little bit. And I keep trying to do things the game clearly doesn't want me to do.
Yeah, I think that kind of plays into how there is a bit of a learning curve. Once you get used to it, you kind of have that paradigm shift. Okay, this is like as an action focused combat system, but it's still an RPG at its core. So once you kind of have that paradigm shift, then suddenly like the floodgates open and like everything clicks, and like at that point, like it gets a lot more satisfying to play.
Oh yeah,
like I was brute forcing my way through just about everything because, like, at a glance, I mean, the game looks like you're supposed to be playing it like fucking Kingdom Hearts, and it's not how it fucking works. But then, when I tried to do the Leviathan fight, I got my ass fucking handed to me so bad.
Same.
So then I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Because I know I've been doing something wrong this whole fucking game. Let's sit here, look through the menu, and figure this out. Readjusted a lot of my materia, went and tweaked some of my weapons, learning different skills on them, and then equipping the right kinds of weapons for getting the right job done.
Yeah.
And then I just fucking crushed it. Like, went back, fought him. It was easy peasy. It was.
I went through pretty much the same thing. I also that's when I realized how useful Barrett can be, because like I'd say of all the characters, Barrett was probably the least fun to play as.
I actually like playing as him quite a bit.
He serves an important purpose, though.
He's incredibly useful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
so
I
he
wouldn't
may not be like
the
a frontline person, but like he has his role to play. He plays it perfectly.
He has a lot of good stuff for like basically like tanking, and then also for building up the stagger meter. Which
I think the character I had the least fun playing as, and that's not even to say I didn't like playing as them, because I liked playing as everybody, to be perfectly honest. But the least fun was still Aerith, and I'm still having a hard time fucking saying that.
I refuse. I will die on this hill.
I think at this point, I will
never call her anything else.
But like, she was strictly speaking the least fun for me to play as out of all of the party members. But she was still fun to play as.
Well, I think I like to really go with more of like, I like to focus more on magic a lot, and she kind of really emphasizes that, especially with that one thing, the arcane ward where you can like cast stuff twice is like
that was a lot of fun to play around with.
My one complaint with her though is that I wish you could still go bonk people with her staff.
I think part of the reason for that is because like a lot of times when she's in your party, Barrett isn't, so maybe they thought, okay, we should have like one long range person to kind of fill that void when he's not there. That's kind of what I impression I got.
I will say I'll throw an asterisk on that. As far as least fun to play as, if we're really gonna get down to little specifics, as funny as I find the atomic can opener to be, holy shit, did I not like playing as Barrett when he had close range weapons.
I liked it when I had the fucking wrecking ball, because I just piled so much bonus into attack power that shit would just destroy guys, and it was just a stagger machine.
Like, it could wreck face, but I didn't think it was fun to play as. He felt slow and clunky, and maybe this kind of just goes back to, I guess, the fact that the game a little bit tricks your brain into what you're supposed to be doing. Because it is still an RPG, so technically speaking, that shouldn't matter. But it's still actiony, so at the same time, my brain is like, I'm moving too fucking slow. What is this? I can't dodge anything.
That's kind of the point, though. Is it's sacrificing his
5 years to do a single attack.
Well, it's the point. He's supposed to sacrifice his speed for more attack.
Yeah,
I did prefer having him with the long range weapons because he usually was more useful with that. But when it came to some battles, I would just put on that fucking wrecking ball and destroy shit. But one problem I did have, though, like combat wise, is I feel like some enemies and some bosses could kind of go on for a little too long. And at that point, that's when you kind of really realize you're just doing the same shit over and over again.
Aerial combat was horse shit. I fucking hated any
A lot
enemy.
of people agree that aerial combat needs to be worked on.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so especially because there are circumstances where they stick you with no ranged characters, and yet you're still expected to deal with aerial enemies. So, say you're playing as Cloud, he could still get to them, but you'd jump up, you'd do like the 3-hit combo, and then you'd have to wait for yourself to fall back down to the ground, and then you'd have to initiate another attack again.
And by then, there's already an attack heading towards you, but you're still waiting just to, land.
Those fucking dragons that shot like that wind or the arrow.
Those are the ones
that was so annoying.
You guys, that's kind of the crux of this whole issue here is those guys.
Well, so I feel like people needed specific aerial moves that they could use instead of just you just kind of jump up and do a regular attack. I kind of would have liked a little bit more interesting stuff there.
Not to mention you can't block when you're in midair either. So
yeah.
I think the point is more to use magic on those guys, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I think most people end up doing. But
well, I mean that kind of leads me to another criticism I have of the combat is, it's an RPG, so a lot of it is how you prepare for a fight, but you're not always in a position where you have the ability to prepare for a fight. You don't always know what's coming next. And you could get thrown into a boss. You have no idea how that boss behaves. You don't know offhand what its weaknesses are or anything like that. And then you're just kind of thrown in. And if you weren't set up properly before you went in, well, tough shit. Either figure out a way to brute force it or fail.
Well, that's why I usually keep my team pretty versatile. Each person kind of has a different specialty and different elements. Though early on, you don't really have that option.
Yeah, sometimes you have a particularly tough boss where it's that just doesn't cut it, and there's no way to know until you just go and fight him and die and then try again.
What I think I would like to see in the next part is it's like the ATB gauge. Get a little more use out of that and give players a little bit more flexibility in the middle of combat. So say you're up against an enemy that you just aren't equipped for, but you have the right things to deal with them. Let players spend some of the ATB gauge to swap out a materia or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe you can save certain individual setups, and you can maybe that can be a command materia or something where you can just switch it if you have the bars filled up or something.
Yeah, it's still restrictive in that you don't get to just be like, oh well, I'm not set up for this, let me fucking respec my entire team to be perfect.
Yeah,
so but it still gives you some flexibility.
But you're not stuck with a gimpy party,
Yeah,
for something that you had no way of knowing to expect.
Speaking of the ATB gauge, that is another kind of problem I have with filling up the ATB gauge sometimes. And I get this is also kind of supposed to be part of the challenge, but sometimes it's annoying when your character is down to very little health and you have no charging ATB gauge, and you're like, well fuck, I can't do anything to heal myself. And in order to fill the gauge, you have to go fight the guy. So now you have to get in close where they're just gonna fucking kill you. And so many times that's happened where even if I do manage to get the ATB gauge up, I'm now right by the guy. So, like, because you don't heal instantly. Like, it takes a second to use a potion or anything. So that can be a little bit of a problem. But at the same time, I kind of understand that's the challenge, or else you could just spam healing shit all the time.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of
kind
spamming
of on the subject
shit,
of that, like I found that's why I found like the deadly dodge mixed with
Yeah,
I think it's HP absorb, because like then you can just go deadly dodge and hit the guy. You're doing damage and
I
you're
can't
filling
believe
up with
I
engage
never
and
thought
you're
of that.
healing yourself at the same time.
That's a
So,
genius strategy.
Yeah, I found that to be really useful.
speaking
But
of
again, you only have,
spamming
like,
healing shit, one thing I do wish they had, and this is more of an out of combat thing, was I wish they had a faster method of like letting you heal your party, because like the game dumps fucking potions on you left and right. So like I wish there was some faster way of just cruising through those potions to top yourself off outside of combat.
Yeah, like some
That's a
RPGs
bit of
have
a
like a heal all option, and it just uses
yeah.
whatever. Like doesn't
Well, if
Trials
you want to use
Remake have
magic,
that?
you can use magnify attached to cure, and that would cure everybody. But
Yeah,
Oh,
but if you
it's
don't want
usually-
to spend the MP, I mean,
yeah.
like if you've got a fuckload of potions and nothing else to use them on, it'd be nice if they
Well,
just had some
I mean, I
faster way of doing it.
had a shit ton of ethers. That's usually what I did. Is I would just use Curaga on everyone, and then just use an ether outside of battle.
But going back to actual combat, there's another thing that I don't know if you guys had this problem, but I had it in just about every boss fight. So, it comes to staggers and limit breaks and summons and all that. One thing that drove me up the fucking wall was mid-fight cutscenes. Like I'd get a boss down, I'd get their stagger meter all the way up, and then basically right as either I was about to stagger them, or just after, or just as I was about to use a limit break, or before my summon was about to go off, or something. Just some opportunity for me to actually take advantage of the mechanics and do a shit ton of damage. A fucking mid-fight cutscene would start, so it would undo their stagger, just basically wipe the slate fucking clean for them, and all that work I put in just gone.
I didn't really have that problem, but I did have a couple of my limit breaks get just fucking stuffed by an attack, which is really stupid because they're limit breaks. You should they're a big fucking deal. You shouldn't be able to just stop it.
Yeah, like I think what I would like to see is if you're going to do, I don't have a problem with mid-fight cutscenes themselves, but I think giving the player ample warning to when one is going to happen would be a much better approach to that. So the fucking Robo Scorpion that you fight at the beginning, make his actual HP bar reflect how long that segment of the fight lasts, so players can know, okay, I've got my limit break charged up. I'm gonna use it right now. Oh wait, fuck. Mid-fight cutscene, so most of my limit break just got eaten. Great. Make the HP bar reflect when that mid-fight cutscene's gonna happen, so they know if they should bother using it or not.
Yeah, that would be one solution. But yeah, I get what you're talking about.
Because I had that happen to me in almost every boss fight. Just either a limit break getting stuffed, or I wouldn't stagger them until right before that fucking cutscene starts.
I didn't really have that problem.
Oh, I did. I had it a lot.
I mean, I've had a few where I finally stagger them, and then something would happen, but I just figured that was just supposed to happen. That triggered the next part of the fight.
It never really made or broke the fight for me, but I can see how they would be annoying though.
Yeah, I don't know, like I said, to me it just felt like I'm trying to take advantage of the mechanics here, but as soon as I do, it's all undone by a cutscene. So I don't mind the cutscene, I just wish I had some sort of warning to know if I'm going to be wasting my time on a limit break, or if I should get excited about this stagger I'm about to pull off, that kind of thing. And maybe it is the staggers that are triggering it, and they're kind of set to that. But even then, that feels like a bit of a problem in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, because you're working to try and stagger them so you can get all this damage, and then it just takes it away. Because I do remember that happening with the Hell House. but I didn't really have a lot of other problems there.
Yeah, like overall, I've got my complaints about the combat system, but I think it's a huge fucking step in the right direction. There was a lot of good things going on there.
I mean, it was enough to keep me entertained, and like I was usually looking forward to like the next fight and everything. I mean, Tifa was super fucking fun to play as. I figured she was gonna be, just because I usually like the like fisticuff kind of fights, but I didn't really expect, like, because I like the whole like you can charge up like to do different moves and stuff. And she had one of the most entertaining limit breaks with the fucking was it dolphin kick or whatever was her second one?
Yeah.
Well, she had some interesting mechanics going on her own with like the focus key or whatever it was, where it changed her special.
Yeah.
And like there's taking all of that into account.
Well, I do like how like each character is like totally unique too. Whereas like in the original, the only thing that really made them unique was their limit break. Other than that, like you can set them up pretty much to be all the same if you wanted to. So at least now each character has their own role to play.
I think Andy died.
Andy, you dead? Yeah, his internet shot again.
Okay. I guess we can do it to make it back then.
It'd be a fun editing job.
Well, not really, because I'll just truncate the silence. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I mean, it's only happened like twice so far, but
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's fine. It's fine. It'll be fine.
It's all part of the experience, and I'm too lazy to cut most of this out anyway. Maybe. We'll see.
yeah. Well, that's something I'm worried about too. Is like, because a lot of times, like for me, my internet doesn't cut, but I don't know if it's just a problem with my phone or what. But like, just randomly, like I won't be able to hear you guys. You won't be able to hear me, but I'll still be in the chat. And the only way to fix it is to leave and come back. And it hasn't happened yet, though.
There it goes.
Well, hopefully that's a sign that he's on his way back.
I told him not to say anything. Oh, the
Yeah,
internet's been great today, guys. No issues.
It keeps happening. Warned you about those stairs, bro. Welcome back.
And that's why Andy is the best. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I don't like uh-ohs.
He's dead, Jim.
It's always right in the middle talking.
Oh, there it is. You're back.
Hooray!
I always be like, I'll be in the middle of saying something, and then just everyone's silent for so long, and I'm like, no one's interrupted me. Later, it's dead, isn't it? And then no one says anything, and I'm like, yep, it's gone.
Yeah, well, for us, like, it always says you're still in the chat, so I'm like, I don't realize you're gone yet. And I'm always expecting you to...
Yeah, no, like, it's still
I'll be,
like
offering a rebuttal to something you said, and it's like, okay, he's not even going to acknowledge it. And like, oh, okay, he's just gone.
like, my thing's still lighting up when I talk. That's why I never noticed either, because I'll be going on and on and on, and then like no one says anything, and I'm like, oh, god damn it. Then I have no idea where it cut me off. I forgot what I was even talking about.
Yeah, well, we were talking about like, shit. What were we talking about?
I remember I was talking about how fun Tifa was to play as.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and how she has like the focus and stuff. And...
Yeah, like all that shit. Like it was super flashy stuff that I really like. Even like. It was simple, but it was fun. And I've seen people pull off some fucking crazy ass combos with that shit too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another thing that I thought was kind of cool was how some weapons did have their own unique like animations and attacks, like that fucking spiked back that Cloud gets. Like,
yeah,
the strong attack for that is just a fucking batter swing.
Too bad that weapon sucks.
Yeah, it does. It sucks major dick, but
I think it's more or less a joke weapon. But...
Well, yeah, but I thought like because like its whole thing seemed to be like for getting critical hits, and it just even that like with the critical hits, it still didn't even do that much damage.
Yeah, I mostly just used it for that one mini game where you break the boxes, and then like I only used it once for that, and I already learned like the ability from it, so I'm like, well, I guess I don't need this anymore.
Well, I first tried it out when I went to fight Shiva, and I'm just like, oh, this is a bad idea. I got the shit I needed from it just from that fight anyways, so I'm like, okay, cool.
I fought Rufus with that weapon.
That seems like that'd be interesting. The Rufus fight was fucking super fun.
Yeah.
I also liked how, like, I mean, the gimmick bat aside, none of the weapons were really useless just because you got a new one. because
they all had their focuses.
Yeah, they had their own
specific focused ones or attack focused ones, and
which makes me very happy because I do absolutely just love the original Buster Sword. So the fact that it was still a viable option to use, which by the end of the game I actually was using that because I got it kind of pretty well balanced. So I really like that.
Well, like I want to say if you're playing a numbers game, it is one of the better swords that he gets. Like once you've got things leveled up, like it just kind of ekes out over a couple of the other ones. But
yeah,
like just the fact that all the weapons remain useful, it just depends on how you want to play.
Well, because the hard edge was really good because that one had like the best attack, and then like the mithril sword was better for if you wanted to go more like magic.
Yeah.
Like I generally focused on ones that gave me more materia slots.
That too.
Anything else?
Well, I mean, a lot of them let you add a whole bunch to them as well.
Yeah.
Which usually was the first thing I went for. There's like that last one you get for him is like that like double sword thing. I barely use it. I just got that like super counter from it and went back to the Buster Sword.
Sorry, they're lighting off fireworks again. So
I can't hear. Yeah,
that's what it is.
It won't be long before they're lighting them off here. But yeah, I mean, what else do we have to say about the gameplay?
I mean, we could talk about like side quests and how they're handled, but I don't know if I have a whole lot to say about that. It seems pretty standard.
They're pretty basic.
Felt pretty basic. Nick, you'll get this since you've been playing through it, but they gave me some fucking hard Yakuza vibes.
Yeah, kinda.
Like my problem is that they kind of brought everything to a screeching halt because the whole thing was like usually they're like, oh, like this is the only time you're gonna be able to do these side quests. So like if you're a completionist, you've got to get them done there. So then that means you're not advancing at all for a while until you're done with these side quests.
You can't even really go back and complete old ones if you wanted either, which is I can understand how that'd be a problem.
They kind of go towards helping the world building because again they make this feel like a more lived in world with actual people, but at the same time, like as far as side quests go, like it's not like they were like tedious or obnoxious to do because the combat system was fun, but they were still very basic in what you were doing because it's just go here, fight this thing, obtain this item, go bring it back.
Yeah, I didn't mind that.
There's not a whole lot to say about it, but I mean, it's probably better that they're there than not being there, so that way you just get a little bit more.
Yeah, it gave you some extra stuff to do.
Building too, so.
Yeah, like they were bare bones and basic. They were nice for world building, but they were just functionally speaking, they weren't anything exciting. Like there was no big revelations or fun side stories, but they were nice little. Well, nice I guess is subjective.
What about Johnny?
I liked Johnny.
Yeah, he was pretty great.
You know what? I honestly didn't realize he actually was in the original game too.
Yeah,
he was.
He played such a small role that I honestly didn't even remember him until I decided to play. I decided to play the original after I beat the remake. Like I didn't get that far in it. I basically just kind of played through the Midgar part. And
I will say
that's freaking Johnny. He was in the original.
On the note of Johnny, I did think one thing was handled really weird about him, and that was between the first time you see him and like Cloud basically threatens to kill him, and then he runs off. He's like, I'm gonna leave town. Oh my god, don't hurt me. And then you find him again in Wall Market, and I thought I missed something because all of a sudden he's acting like it's like he forgot that entire encounter ever fucking happened.
Well, Johnny's a little stupid.
Yeah, he's kind of an idiot. So I just kind of dismissed it as
same.
Yeah, it felt a little weird. Like, and as thick as Johnny is, it still felt a little strange to me. And I thought I had missed something, but it turned out I didn't because I did get the trophy for seeing all of the Johnny events.
Like,
I don't remember if I got that one or not.
I don't think I got that one though. Now that I think about it.
Well, speaking of side characters that show up, like what about that motorcycle soldier guy?
Roche.
It seemed like he was gonna actually be like he was gonna show up again later, but no, he just never shows up again. So it's like,
well, yeah, okay. I thought the point of him,
the fucking highway chase. I thought for sure he was gonna be there.
that's what I thought. Like the whole point of them bringing in this,
he's gonna jump in and it's gonna be this big epic encounter, but no, he's just gone.
Yeah, I thought that's why they were doing like the earlier like motorcycle thing was to set him up for later.
Yeah.
But no, speaking of Johnny, as I keep trying to say, at this point now it just seems so far past, who gives a shit. But yeah, I didn't remember him until I was reading a fucking webcomic about that, just going through FF7, and like they just keep bringing up Johnny and he continues to show up, and they're just like, yes, this was a character from the original game. And I'm like, I do not remember that guy at all.
Yeah, well, he doesn't really have much of a purpose. He's pretty much just a random NPC in the original. So
doesn't he claim to be like a childhood friend of Cloud's or something?
I don't remember, but
it's weird.
Like, it's just weird.
I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of him in the later parts.
Oh, definitely.
Because like the end of his side quest shit is him basically being like, yeah, I got fucked over. I'm gonna be a new man. I'm gonna be smarter. I'm gonna head out of here and go on my own, make it on my own and shit. And I have a feeling we're gonna be seeing. He's gonna continue to be like that weird little comic relief.
You'll see him next in Costa del Sol, and he'll be like working some fucking side job there or something.
Yeah.
We're gonna see him in Gold Saucer.
Yeah, well, yeah, he'll be in Costa del Sol trying to make his way to Gold Saucer. He's gonna be there when Eris dies. Just be like, oh no, bro. Dude, that sucks.
I was gonna say he gets thrown into that like prison too, and maybe he has to race chocobos to get out.
That totally would happen. Like, because like you're just gonna like suddenly see him down there, and he's like, "Oh man, there was some like misunderstanding, and they threw me in here." Oh man.
And then I can also see it's totally gonna be like, "Oh man, is this thing's head?" But then the camera's gonna zoom out, and he's on a chocobo backwards. And like, and you're racing him, and then he's like backwards the whole time.
Oh my god, I would fucking love that. Just racing Johnny, and he's backwards.
He'll be on top of another jockey and be like, "I hope the guy downstairs knows where we're going." Oh my god.
Side characters. Fucking okay, so apparently what was her name? Kyrie and that dude with the white hair. So apparently those are characters that are already in the FF7 universe.
Wait, what, guys?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what you're talking about.
So, one of the guys working for Don Corneo, the dude with the white hair and the cap.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Around the sewers, and he cries about his
well, I don't think his name.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Leslie?
I forgot.
Yeah.
Leslie.
Leslie,
Yeah.
yes,
Leslie. Leslie Cohen. And then fucking Kyrie, that girl who robs Johnny, and it was after I think the second, or no, it was after the plate fell. She's on the.
Oh yeah, I know her. Like
bubble, and she's like screaming about how Avalanche.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought she was, but yeah, I just couldn't remember her name. Yeah.
So apparently those two characters actually are established in the FF7 lore. It's just from some, I can't remember if it was a radio drama or a light novel. I want to say a light novel.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad you brought up Leslie though, because he is like so out of place, because he is like so new Final Fantasy look to him. Like he looks like he would belong in FF15. He just looks so wrong in that game.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of out of place, let's talk about fucking Chadley. That motherfucker looks like he belongs in FF13. FF13 2.
I hate Chadley. I hate Chadley so much.
What a fucking little douche.
I hate the way he talks, and he's just annoying. And then Mark brought this up about how stupid it is. It's like, oh my god, these like summon materia, that like these so amazing gods. And he's like, yeah, I just made these.
I just invented them.
Yeah. Let's take all the piss out of like these amazing monsters.
Well, I'm gonna be real fucking interested to see how the game handles those going forward. And also, I'm gonna guess you guys didn't do all of his things either, since no one's mentioned it. because I didn't. I found out about this from, I think it was like the Easy A discussion about it. But apparently, Chadley has a secret, and you find out about it if you do all of his simulations.
I did all the simulations. I don't remember what this is.
He's a robot.
Wait, what? I don't remember finding this out. I did all the simulations. Like, I got Bahamut and everything.
He's a fucking robot.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I don't remember him revealing that.
I don't know where it's revealed, but
unless there's because I just got Bahamut and I didn't really follow up or anything, so maybe I just missed that.
yeah, like I've seen plenty of people talking about it, but yeah, apparently he's a fucking robot.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's even stupider. Of robots just fucking making summon materials.
So yeah, if you have AI that's that smart, shouldn't that be something we should be kind of concerned about?
This remake raises a lot of questions.
Don't worry about it.
Maybe he's like Kate and he's like being controlled from somewhere.
Don't worry about it.
It's another one of Reeves' little robots.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like, is he one of Reeves' robots, or is he like secretly actually one of Hojo's creations that he's only pretending that he wants to bring down Shinra or some shit? Like,
no, the Cetra made him years ago, and he's just been waiting there the whole time.
So yeah, I don't know what the fucking deal with that is, but yeah, apparently he's a robot. So food for thought.
Oh my god.
Well, I'm guessing he probably will show up in the sequels too. And
Swear to God,
probably,
if he keeps being the one to give summons, that's gonna be dumb.
yeah, I'm gonna say he'll probably continue to be the ones to get summons and stuff,
Like,
unless he's just
especially
already replaced by someone else.
the especially weird thing about the summons being in there, like, I get why the game gives you summons, but the fucking power levels that they give you, like all the way up to Bahamut, you haven't even left Midgar yet. Where are you going to go from here?
Well, okay, FF7 does
now
have
we
two
can look
other Bahamuts, so yeah, but still, getting Bahamut before the end did seem like it was a little crazy. Like, I can deal with like Ifrit, Sheba, those are always kind of the first ones, but it did seem like they were throwing in a lot of them.
Well, I mean, now we can look forward to some of the more like unique summons from FF7, like Typhoon, and like that's the one I can think about at the top of my head.
What was that like pig one? Or it was like a boar. God, I can't think of his name.
Oh yeah,
did like a Tetra attack or something.
Yeah, I can't remember its name either, but it's like Katcha or Kachata or
you
something.
get him in like a really weird area, and like I think you find better stuff almost immediately.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe like he'll probably be cool if he was in it, especially since they seem to be embracing some of the more weird stuff about 7. So.
Oh yeah, I definitely would think that they're going to be in there after this stuff.
Well, I mean, the fact that they give you fucking fat Chocobo and Chocomog.
I liked it being more of like a random thing you got from Chocomog than just being its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, I still found Chocomog to be the most useful of all the summons.
I don't think I ever actually used it all that much.
He was really good for Stagger
because he's non-elemental. So
he's wind.
Is he?
Chocomog is wind.
Yeah, Fat Chocobo is non-elemental.
Oh, okay. I must have been thinking about Fat Chocobo then.
Well, the thing is, Leviathan was technically non-elemental because they didn't have a water element.
Yeah, that too.
Which kind of bugged me.
Well, maybe that's another thing they'll fix in the sequels. Maybe they'll actually add a water element.
I mean, it's fine if they didn't have like any other ones, but I kind of wish like he had like an element to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was just generic. Well, like, he was non-elemental, but he was at least still magic focused because like Fat Chocobo wasn't Fat Chocobo physical.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, because like his whole thing was like throwing out bombs and shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of surprised when there was that fight against the Tonberry. Man, it died again, didn't it? Oh no, never mind.
No.
It was quiet.
I was just like thinking about what I wanted to say about it.
It was kind of like I didn't see that coming. I thought it was kind of funny.
The fucking Tonberry fight was a mess for me.
I think I actually did die in him this time. I don't really remember why.
Me, man. He's getting close, and I'm just like, oh god, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, like I beat him first try, but it was a mess. Like, he was constantly fucking KOing characters, and I'm like, oh god, what am I supposed to do against this horrid monster?
Shit was flying everywhere. I was just kind of going nuts. But I also like all the fights with the Turks are really fun. Just they were like just the individual fights, like against Rude, was just kind of funny because he kept fucking just throwing me around.
Yeah, it always does feel weird when you're fighting against just a regular guy though, and you have like
Yeah,
a full party just gang up on him. Like
the
it just
whole
doesn't seem fair.
that game did know how to go pretty big though with some of like the shit going on, because like when you're fighting both Reno and Rude, and well, and like Rude's still in the helicopter, but then he joins in all that before the plate falls. Like that whole part was just like really fucking cool.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that part, like it's kind of another example of how they kind of padded things out. Because like that sequence only takes like 5 minutes or so in the original, but it takes like probably over an hour in the remake, and like pretty much every dungeon or like quote unquote dungeon is like that now.
I mean, yeah,
that's kind of, I think, a byproduct of just the new combat system, because you have to expand all the areas and make them much bigger, because you can't take advantage
You
of
don't have random encounters anymore.
the random encounters in the little pocket battle dimensions. So like I understand that. Honestly, I think the worst thing of padding to me was probably the second visit to the sewers and the fucking ghost train yard. Like the ghost train yard went on forever.
but it has 2 boss battles in it.
Yeah, two
and it's
fucking
really not
boss
the most
battles.
interesting area either. But
Two fucking boss battles, like that weird side thing with like the ghost, or the ghosts were apparently the
Yeah.
ghosts of kids that Aerith knew or something.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
all the while, like, it takes so fucking long to get through that. Meanwhile, they're trying to drop the fucking plate, so like there's this huge level of urgency going on, but they're dragging your progress to a fucking halt by making you go through this entire ghost train yard. That felt really, really weird and padded to me.
the one padding that I didn't like was like that hidden, or like the secret lab underneath Sector 7, because it really didn't add anything. It was really pointless. Like the only thing would be like, okay, well, they're showing off these genetic experiments, which you just could have seen anyways once you got to Hojo's lab. And
They did kind of set it up before though, because like leading up to that point, they do mention that there have been rumors of a secret lab. I didn't think that part was too bad.
Yeah, that part didn't seem like it was too long, if I remember correctly.
Well, it was kind of interesting because that's where you get separated and you have to play as Barrett. Like I was fine with that. I just think story wise, it did not really add anything.
Well,
it just
there's
was
another
kind
part
of there.
There's another part kind of like that too, where you have to go back into the sewers to try to find Corneo. Like that wasn't either, and that also kind of felt like
the thing about that though is that I absolutely love Corneo, so seeing him again was worth it.
And it does show like, okay, like what happens to him after that event too, because I mean in the original he's just gone and he doesn't show up until way later.
Until
at least now it kind of shows like what happens to him. So
I think the reason why it kind of felt more padding to me was just because you were retreading. Like this time, you were retreading a lot of the same areas of the sewer.
Yeah,
like there were a couple new ones, but fucking chasing down that I forget what the monster was called, but one of its spawn, and you're chasing down the one that stole the key. Like that felt so dragged out.
Yeah, and then you just fight the same boss that you did before.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There was that. Like definitely like some problems with some padding.
Yeah, overall, I didn't think the padding was too bad, but I'd say the second visit to the sewers and the train yard, those are the 2 points where it bothered me.
I expected it, but I was always just thinking of that one, like the secret lab, like story wise, like it just didn't provide anything.
Well, speaking of padding though, like when it comes to the sequel though, do you think there'll be more or less padding? Like I think it depends on where they decide to end it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Which I guess this would be a good time to start getting into the story then.
Yeah, I think so too.
Before we do, I wanna go over a couple other like high points for me at least, because we haven't really gotten to them yet. One really fucking high point for me was the music, because
yeah. Speaking of the music, playing through it, I hear all these remixes of old FF7 music, and I'm just like, it kind of makes me think: are we like the golden age of video game music? Is that like long past us? Because these days you don't really. The soundtrack of games are just not as memorable. I mean, at least there's some games that have a great soundtrack, but they're more the exception, whereas back then it felt like more the rule.
Well, I don't know. Those old Final Fantasy just I've always had good music. I think it was later on.
It could just
like
be nostalgia talking, though.
Well, like
I don't think so.
Here's where I'll step in. The nostalgia thing, I didn't care that much about the original soundtrack. Like a lot of aspects of it, soundtrack was among them. And like I don't hate the battle theme, but I've gotten a little bored of it. But then hearing it in the remake, I was like, holy shit, this is hype as fuck.
Yeah.
Like they did a really good job remixing the original tracks. They did a good job keeping the soundtrack varied, so it doesn't always just sound like generic background orchestral stuff. Like, I think they did a really fucking good job of it.
I was disappointed with the first use of the boss battle music because they kept using like the regular, like the old regular battle music for bosses for a while, and I'm like, oh man, that must mean they're like saving the boss battle music for something really cool, and then it's just like the Airbuster, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess this is kind of a big moment, but I thought they were saving it for like something like bigger, like, oh, it's like probably gonna be like when you see the Turks or something, or I don't know. But yeah, speaking of the music though, like just being pretty fucking amazing, there's one specific part where I really noticed because it's that area there you have to like run through that has like those fucking mechanical arms and all that shit.
Yeah.
Because like original game, that music, like it's not bad, but it's just pretty forgettable. And then like I was expecting in this game, like just I'm like, holy shit, this fucking remix is amazing.
Right. Like who'd have thunk that, they actually managed to trump the original in.
Well, there were some times where
I
have a hard time even recognizing that it was like an old song, like especially with a lot of the ones you get on the jukebox. Like,
those are straight up like they almost changed like the genre for them.
Yeah, like Barrett's theme sounds entirely different.
Well, a lot of them have like those really fucking weird track names, and I'm like, what was it, like Rotten Pizza or something like that?
Well, those are the actual like track names,
like,
but yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is that name? And then I went back and looked, and I'm like, oh, that was an actual track name in the original. Huh.
Well, the only reason I remember this is because I've been listening to the original soundtrack while I'm at work lately. But it also reminded me how much I love the Dawn of the Slums music for Don Corneo is such a great track too. And that one they didn't really change up too much.
Yeah, then moving on from the soundtrack, another thing I really fucking liked was just the character writing. Because, again, I don't have any previous nostalgic love for these characters, but the way they were written this time, there's just so much more depth to their character and like emotion in their acting, and it's just, I get it this time. Like everyone fucking cries themselves to sleep over Aerith, and I'm just like, I don't really care about this character. Like you remember back in high school when I was playing through it, and I got to the part where she dies, and the first thing I said to you guys walking up this morning was, so when does she come back to life? And like, oh, she doesn't. I'm like, oh well.
David, that was so fucking precious. Like, you have no idea how funny that was. Like, not mocking in any way. It just like it because okay, for me, I had it spoiled way before I ever played it myself, so I just knew.
Yeah, so did I.
So. It just didn't occur to me that you just didn't know. And I'm like, oh god, yeah, like she's actually dead.
Yeah, I'm just like, so when does she come back? And you're like, she doesn't. I'm just like, oh well.
Yeah, like this shit's
like,
real, man.
You kill this Aerith, and yeah, I get it. I would be sad. This one feels like an actual fucking person.
They got like, because like, I don't know, they have personalities in the original game, but they're very.
They just don't come on.
More two-dimensional.
I think. Well, another thing you have to consider is back in 1997, like localization standards weren't really as high as they are now. So,
the
big problem with translating like Japanese characters into English is a lot of like the nuances just don't translate over that well.
And there's some comparisons I can make there from earlier games. Like Chrono Trigger, I think, is one of my favorite localizations of any RPG, and that came well before that. So
there were exceptions back
there were really good ones, but
I mean, it has its issues, but a great localization for its time. But like I think FF7 was still like even like for its time it was like acceptable, but it still didn't really excel in any way.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, there's also the fact that it's all you're reading, and it's harder to infer some of the personalities from that. Like it's harder to get Eris being a bit more sassy, whereas like now she's like cracking jokes about Cloud and all that shit, and like it works so much better now that you can hear it, and there's someone actually acting.
Like you can hear it. There's someone acting. The length of the lines is a lot longer, so they can put in a bit more nuance there. Whereas the original, I know a lot of it is just chalked up to not the best translation, but the translation came off really stilted, and it just was really hard to connect with any of the characters. But like this time, it's like I get it now. Like I understand why people love these characters. Like I still kind of don't because stilted writing, but now if you showed me these characters, I'm like, yeah, it makes a lot more fucking sense.
It's funny too, because like I never had a problem with Barrett in the original one, but I just never really cared for him all that much. It just always seemed like he was just angry black man in that. But his characterization in this one made me absolutely love him. And the fact that he constantly wears shades for no fucking reason. Like in a place that's usually dark all the time.
Well, like there's a handful of times where he loses them, and I'm like, oh, this is weird now.
I know, like I'm like, no, I'm too used to the shades. Like his personality was like so much fun, and like there's the great part with it. Well, again, that was story stuff, but I enjoyed him so much more. I didn't expect to like just absolutely love Barrett.
Oh, on the note of Barrett, and kind of going back to our discussion of just like weird RPG things and just embracing shit, the fucking Shinra stairs. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I want to bring that up because
I took the stairs.
Oh yeah, I took the stairs. I mean, I went back and played that one again and took the elevator, but I've always taken the stairs too.
I did not see that coming.
I was hoping I'd be surprised because in the original, I forget. I think it's Tifa calls Barrett a retard in that.
I think that's another example of shoddy localization, though.
Probably, but I was just kind of like, "There's no way they do that." Like it's too much of a problematic word, I guess now.
Yeah, nowadays that would never fly. I'm almost surprised they haven't changed that in like re-releases of the game. But
I really liked the nice touch of the music warping. The higher up you get, and like Cloud stops being able to run.
Yeah, like the whole thing, I wasn't expecting, because I thought it was just going to be, okay, we're just going to run up these stairs and it's just going to take a while, but actually having him get tired and all that.
And like you start feeling frustrated even as the player, because like he's walking slower, so it's like, they just like, kind of nailed it.
That part was so fucking good.
Saying this, but like, yeah, it really does make you feel like you're just running up these stairs. It's such a stupid part, but like, that's again, like that attention, like the fun of the original game too. It just... The fact that it also is like showing you who's in first place while you're climbing the stairs is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But the elevators is kind of funny if you do that, because I went back and tried that.
Yeah, I didn't do that, so
it stops every 10 floors, and like the first few you fight someone, and then you get to a floor and like Cloud's like pulling his sword out like he's ready to fight, and it's just like some secretary lady that just scares the crap out of.
Well. Now,
let's
get onto the meat and potatoes, the story.
Well, it was when it was being Final Fantasy VII, it was really good.
So, I understand that I don't think there's room for a just straight 1-to-1 remake with the story. I think the remake offers them a chance to, redo a couple things, tweak a couple things, flesh out some other things, and change things around a little bit. But holy fuck, I do not think the whispers were the way to go about this.
No, like not
at all.
The thing is, I usually like to keep an open mind about stuff like that, but this is one thing where it just really feels shoehorned in, and it doesn't add to the story at all. If anything, it kind of takes away from it. So,
I thought it was interesting.
I can go into detail about why too, but we'll get into that.
I thought it was really interesting, actually. Like, the jury's still out whether I like it or not. It was just, when you do a remake and they kind of throw in this extra stuff that, like, this is why I feel like you had to play the original first to really understand this.
Yeah.
they really expect you to kind of know what's going on, because having these things that are essentially trying to keep the original timeline going is just kind of really interesting to me.
Well, it makes me question who this game is actually for.
Yeah.
And the only conclusion I can come to is that this is like they tried to say that, oh yeah, we wanted to make this approachable for newcomers who've never played the original. But for those people, Whispers are the dumbest fucking thing ever, and they're just Deus Ex Machina incarnate, because these players won't have the context of what originally happened, so why the Whispers are showing up in the first place doesn't make any sense. It just looks like, oh, here's a time ghost to make sure thing happens, but why? Why does thing have to happen?
Yeah. Whereas, if you're an original player, you'll know, because if that doesn't happen, then the story isn't going to play out the way it's supposed to. But
and for original players, it feels like it cheapens the moment, because while now thing doesn't have a natural reason to happen, it's happening because something told it to.
Yeah, but now, since the end of the game, you do beat the whisper of whatever it's called, the harbinger of whispers. So now it's they're not going to be able to do that anymore. So that can mean is the rest of the story just going to play out normally, and we're just going to forget it ever happened? Or what I think is going to happen is because a lot of people are saying that it's they think it's a sequel to Advent Children technically, and Sephiroth went back in time, and now they tricked us into beating what was essentially Destiny. So now he's going to be oh, now that Destiny is you're no longer destined to defeat me. So now the stakes are higher now. But I guess we won't really know until the sequel comes out.
Yeah, there's still a lot of pieces to the puzzle. It's really mostly speculation at this point. My theory is that it's still going to follow the same beats, of course.
Yeah,
but
I mean, just part 1 did.
Yeah, but now that they've kind of been okay, but we can now change things, and
now that
the original
Destiny.
The original game, you get towards the end, and that plot gets really muddy. A lot of crazy shit comes at you fast, and there's probably some plot holes. I could not name any off the top of my head, but with how much weird shit happens with Cloud being Sephiroth clone, all that shit, and his fake memories, I feel like this is a way to get around some of those plot holes and be well, see, we changed the time.
Well, that's fair and all, but I don't know. As someone who was welcome to seeing change, I would have been happy to see things play out differently. The Whispers still, I mean, we won't have to deal with them anymore, but they still felt cheap in that things try to play out differently, but then the Whispers show up to stop it. So now it has to play out the way it originally did, and you don't give that change an opportunity to breathe, and there's nothing to explore there.
Fine with that until they could just fucking revive dead people, because that took out all.
That's something I want. That's the bone I have to pick, because they freaking kill off Barrett, and then the Whispers revive him, and then all of a sudden he's all gung-ho about, because it seems oh, they're the good guys, and then all of a sudden we're all gung-ho about killing them. It makes no sense.
They're more neutral, if anything. But my thing is just that it takes out the weight of the fact that anyone could die, because
if they weren't supposed to, the Whispers can bring him back.
Yeah, I didn't want Barrett to die, but that would have been one fucking crazy plot twist there. But then having to revive it, just well, what are we worried about at this point? We know that the only person who could die would be Eris. So it's just kind of dumb.
To me, the Whispers also behave really fucking inconsistently, and just their method of operation didn't make a whole lot of sense either. So, as far as the inconsistencies go, well, one, what exactly changed that is making things play out differently? The point where they come in to stop Cloud from killing Reno, because this time he's gonna fucking kill Reno. So the Whispers show up to stop him. Why did Cloud decide to kill him this time? Going back to,
it seems Cloud doesn't have any recollection of how things are supposed to play out. So it does raise an interesting point.
Going back to the second reactor bombing, why did they decide that they weren't going to take Cloud along this time, thus prompting the Whispers to show up, savage an entire fucking district, all so they could sprain Jesse's ankle? What? I'm sorry, fucking what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, the thing though is like it does show like because Cloud does have some like visions of the future, and I feel like that might have something to do with it. Like that might be hinting at something. Because also there, from what I've tried to ignore most what people are saying about it, but people seem to think that Eris might actually be a Whisper herself, seeing as that she seems to know more than she lets on.
No, that's my take on that is that goes back to the same theory of how Sephiroth has knowledge of past events in that he's basically Advent Children Sephiroth. If you remember, fucking when Eris died, she got, she got sucked into the life stream, or sent back to it, whatever, and basically merged with it, and she was powerful enough to actually have some sort of sway over it. So basically, end of original FF7 Aerith is the same Aerith as remake Aerith, or at the very least, that Aerith is like trying to help remake Aerith.
Okay.
So at the same time, Livestream Aerith from the original is basically pushing visions onto the new one. And at the same time, we have Advent Children Sephiroth, who I'm fucking calling it now. Sephiroth is a singularity now. He exists in all time and all space. And when we finally do fucking take him down for good at the end of this, he is going to have the line, "I am the Alpha and the Omega." I am fucking calling it. But
the thing is, I don't know if I completely agree with that, because I don't really think Sephiroth's goal in the original was to just destroy, or just like to rule over this world to just, for no reason because he's evil. I think he wanted to destroy it.
Well, he wanted to become a god.
To kind of reboot it.
His whole thing was he was summoning Meteor because when the planet is damaged, the life stream tries to revive the planet. His whole thing was that he was going to take that energy of the life stream and basically become a god.
Oh, I suppose I forgot that detail.
And
the impression I got was like, he just wanted to, because current society, sucks Mako out of the planet, so he maybe figured by destroying it, it was starting over. And
he doesn't give a shit about the planet anymore. Like,
he does like not seem to like humanity though.
Yeah, but like he doesn't seem to like fucking anybody at this point. And
yeah,
a lot of people attribute that to Genova, but my take on it has always kind of been Genova's not really much of anything. Like, Genova's not an actual, I don't want to say sentient, but like, look at it like Lavos from Chrono Trigger is the best comparison I can make. She seems like she's more just a weird fucking space parasite, and it's not her will that's causing Sephiroth to go nuts. It's just the fact that, this is what happens when you take weird-ass alien cells and put them in a human baby, and they go fucking ape shit and power trip.
Yeah.
I think Andy died again.
Oh, did he? Shit.
Beep, beep, you dead, boy.
Oh, Roger, you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry, are we entertaining enough for you?
Yes.
That's good. That's good.
Do you like it, Roger? Do you like to watch?
I don't know, I'm watching monkeys react to magic.
I thought you were going to say I was watching monkeys masturbate.
That's later.
Were they masturbating at work, though?
Well, it's Sunday, so no.
Oh. Well, normally I would have to work today. That's not to say I masturbate at work every day.
I masturbate at work fairly frequently, but I work from home.
Anyway, I guess while I wait for Andy, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Hey.
What I miss?
Next
recap. Yeah, Nick's peeing.
Oh, good. I forgot that was part of the story.
Recap what I was saying.
Yeah, because I heard you went you said the thing is, and then you stopped, and I'm like, great, I'm dead.
I was talking about Genova and how a lot of people think that Genova is still the big bad, and it was her influencing Sephiroth to do all this shit, when that was never really my take on it. My take is that Genova's basically no more of a sentient threat than like Lavos, for example. She's just a weird fucking alien thing that landed on Earth, or not Earth, Terra, or whatever they call it.
It's Terror Guy, I forget.
But yeah, just weird fucking alien that crash lands there. Very powerful, but also not something with its own goals or logic.
Well, I thought, speaking of Genova, because there's that Genova fight towards the end, like it says that it's supposed to be like creating illusions, so I thought that was going to mean that like most of what was going on was an illusion or something, but crazy shit still happens after you defeat that thing.
Yeah, I don't think they fucking clarified that very well at all.
Well, it's just like if you like scan it to like read its information, it's like, oh, it's like creating illusions or something.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they didn't really clarify how that ties into what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
I still, my problem is also just, I mean, I guess it'll make sense later on, but just the inclusion of Sephiroth so early kind of bugged me.
Yeah, like they kind of
does
deflate.
show up in the original there, but
Yeah,
you
like,
don't actually fight him though.
Well, you don't see him until when you first actually see him.
You don't even see him at that part. And like,
yeah, I think you don't see him until
you see his sword,
and you see the part where, or you see the aftermath of him when he kills that fucking giant snake.
Well, yeah, that was like because that was one of the really good.
Yeah, you're right. You don't actually see him at that part, but you do see like how he like bloodies the walls in the Shinra building and stuff.
Well, yeah,
like, that's kind of the first like indicator of him.
You like walk in after he's already killed the president and all that shit. Like it's really good, like because that like really builds him up. Like when you don't see him, but you're seeing all this shit that he can do. But this one's just like, here he is, look at him, and
yeah,
like, oh, hey, let's
beginning of the game too. It's like,
then, and then fighting him also, I feel like was like I figured it was going to happen when they include him so early, but I still feel like fighting your destiny and then fighting Sephiroth just seemed like was way too much for this first installment.
Fucking cheap. That's all it is fucking cheap thrills of, oh my god, it's Sephiroth. Oh, I mean,
they'll probably pull off like some shit where it's like, oh well, he wasn't at his full power or some stupid shit like that.
Well, I think he basically was just like, oh, now's not our time to fight or something.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so then why did we even have a fight at all then? Well, like, yeah, speaking of cheap thrills and stuff, like another theory is like maybe the reason why they shoehorned in the Whisper subplot was just because they needed, or they felt they needed some kind of big epic god killer ending boss for the end of the game, befitting of a Final Fantasy game.
Which that escalated real fucking quick.
And I'm just like, I feel like there was a better way they could have gone about that though. Like if they wanted to keep things mostly the same, they could have just moved that Genova fight to the end, because that Genova fight wasn't in the original. They could have moved that to the end and scaled it up, and it would have still tied in with the original story, and they could have not had that stupid Whisper subplot.
These are fucking fresh adventurers, not even out of Midgar yet, and they've already killed a goddamn god.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
You're just honestly, gonna then, like, it seems like, a meteor.
You can go first, Andy.
Yeah, like, it just seems like after that, a meteor and a guy who's trying to become a god is a little bit of a step down.
Well, who knows?
Also,
because since they kind of opened the door to, like, changes, maybe, who knows, maybe they will introduce something that's, like, going to be a bigger threat.
Well, like, now that they can go off the, like, completely off the rails of the original, that's fine and all, but it still bothers me with the Whispers, and that the Whispers had to be some sort of weird excuse as to why they couldn't. Like, now, any new changes they introduce will have proper ability to breathe and expand, but because the Whispers are out of the way. But, like, also, I'm still struggling to fucking understand this. Why did they kill the Whispers to begin with? Because it was extremely clear. Like, everybody knew Sephiroth, bad, very bad. He is the real threat. This is established well before you go and kill the fucking god of destiny. So then you get to the end of the fucking highway, and, oh, here's the gate to destiny. Why don't we all go kill God? Because Sephiroth is right there beckoning us in, asking us to kill the god of destiny. Why did they do it? They know he's evil.
That leads into, like, they save Barrett's life, but then, like, all of a sudden they're all gung-ho about killing it. Like, it seriously makes no sense.
They know he's evil. They know he's the big bad. They acknowledge that. and yet here he is telling them to kill Destiny, and they're like, "Oh, seems like a good idea, guys." Oh, fucking what? Oh,
Yeah.
Also you could have some fucking grand ass Kingdom Hearts bullshit. Oh, that was so bad.
Did we lose Andy again?
Maybe.
Damn, that didn't last long. Yeah, there he goes. But I know, like, I just feel like there's a better way they could have gone about it.
Well, also, the escalation of the whispers too. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Why? I don't know. Just the amount that they show up and the ways that they show up. Like, sometimes it's just very simple little, oh, it's a handful of whispers. And then other times it's like when they decide to ransack a district just so they can sprain somebody's ankle. And then the fucking end where it's like, okay, why are there this many whispers now? Like, why are we suddenly just covering the entire Shinra building in whispers? Like,
Sorry,
where did this
I
come
missed
from?
some of that because the app cut out for me. But yeah, I hear that. It's like what determines like the severity of like their presence.
Also, can I ask why the fuck they let Wedge live so long?
I don't know. Maybe they just thought he was a really friendly,
Like, he was supposed to die
wonderful
when the
character.
plate fell, and he didn't.
Yeah, I think he
And
actually
they
does
let
die
him.
in the original. Doesn't
They
he?
let him keep living,
I'm
and
back.
then
Yeah, that's true. Like, why would the Whispers allow that? But like, maybe because he's not as important in the grand scheme of things.
well, then why do they throw him out a fucking window? It's like, oh shit, we forgot about Wedge. Better throw him out a window so make sure he dies.
What I miss?
guess. Oh, yeah, we're talking about like it's so inconsistent, like what the Whispers like seem to deem important and stuff, and like we're specifically
Yeah.
talking about Wedge, like how he does. Like, I'm pretty sure in the original he dies when he jumps off that.
Wait, no, like Biggs,
No,
Wedge, they all die. Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse all are dead.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
die
but
when
like,
the
you
plate
think
falls.
why do the Whispers allow them to live for as long as they do in the remake? Then
Well, I thought it was weird that they just like that Biggs then like is just shown to suddenly be alive because I thought he died at that part, but then just suddenly he just like wakes up in the bed.
right?
Like, the argument could be made that things are turning out differently, and I guess maybe the Whispers thought he was gonna die in the hospital bed. Like, he was unconscious during the plate fall. Someone saved him, but he was out of commission, and they didn't think he'd die or something. And then you kill Destiny, so now he doesn't actually die. But that still doesn't fucking explain why Wedge lives so long. He's clearly alive. And then it's like the Whispers remember he's still alive, so they just decide to throw him out a window. That was so fucking weird. It's like, oh, by the way, here's Wedge. Watch him get tossed out the Shinra building by the Whispers. Nothing else. Nothing else is happening, but here's the Whispers. Whoop! Just fucking yeets him out.
Yeah,
Don't fucking get it. Also, fucking more of the Advent Children shit, like, theory going on here is how those 3 Whispers you fight during that final boss all are using the weapons that the 3 losers from Advent Children had.
which I didn't even realize, but that's because I haven't seen Advent Children in forever. But
Well, like, they kind of try to trick you too, because you look at them, one of them's got a gun, one of them's got a big fist, and the other has a sword. So you think, oh, it's just Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa. But no, it's one of the Advent Children guys just had a big-ass fucking fist. One of them had a gun, and then the other had a sword, like a regular, or a more regular sword, not the Buster sword specifically. But those weapons match up. So it's like, great.
does that mean like the Whispers and stuff is actually working for Sephiroth then?
I don't
It
fucking
seemed
know,
like
man.
Sephiroth, because it seems like Sephiroth wanted you to kill him, but yeah, it looks like we lost Andy again. Damn it, man! Now suddenly it's getting real bad. I mean, before it was like okay, it was like infrequent enough where it's like okay, it offers like a bit of an intermission, but now it's like God, he barely even gets his 2 cents in before he gets kicked out.
We might have to wrap it then.
Even though I still have a lot more to say.
We can do a part 2
Okay.
because we're already pushing we're getting pushing 2 hours here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, honestly, it's probably a decent spot to end it. I mean, the next time we can talk about like what we think the sequel is going to be like where it's going to end, how many sequels there are going to be, and how all this stuff is going to play into it. Because like, yeah, there's still a lot to say there. So
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I might need to wrap this up. These disconnects are getting worse.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
thinking.
Like I still have a lot to talk about, but we're already pushing like 2 hours, so we can always just do this again.
God damn
Well, and honestly, it's suitable anyway, since we can actually talk about what we think about part 2 and stuff in part 2 of the podcast.
it.
Well, let's wrap things up then. Let's go with our little ending question, unrelated to anything else we've just talked about. Let's see here.
Yeah. Shit, I had one and now I can't remember.
I'm gonna go with let's go with this one. What is name a game that you wish you could just completely wipe all memory of and play it again completely fresh, as if for the first time?
I hate this question.
God, I don't know.
Because I don't want to do that because I want to keep the memories I have of any games because I wouldn't
say the memories associated with them is part of the appeal of a lot of these games, especially from my childhood.
I'm gonna take a weird route with this one. I got a good answer, I think. I would say, does it have to be a series or does it have to be a game?
If it's like the first game in a series, it would be everything after that is gone. So like you're basically starting fresh, replaying it for the first time. If it's a specific entry, it's everything after that point.
All right, I would say Mass Effect because I would love. I know the ending. I'll try not to talk too much because otherwise we'll just go into a tangent on this again.
Yeah.
The ending sucked.
That's
the
like
ending
efforts of remaking of itself stuff to talk about, but yeah.
But the ending sucked. I'll just get that out there. The Mass Effect 3 ending sucked. It shit on the entire series. However, I spent so much time with Mass Effect 1 and 2, especially with like Mass Effect 2. I think I don't know. I must have over 30 playthroughs in that game. Just to, I don't know. It was just so much fun for me. I'd absolutely. I mean, yeah, if I could experience it, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed again, I'd
okay,
be fine with that.
That is a very good choice.
That's actually a great answer because now you could replay it without the knowledge of Mass Effect 3 sucking so bad. Because now it's like that's part of the reason why I haven't really gone back is because I don't really feel like playing through the first 2 games because I know all my choices are going to be shat on.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, there's definitely something very special about like forming those actual memories the first time. Like,
I mean, and this was Mass Effect 2 came out during basically the middle of my college years, so and that's kind of occupied most of my free time. So yeah, I had a shit ton of fun with it.
Yeah,
that's my answer.
Honestly, I didn't think I could top that. I can't really think of anything.
I've had my answer prepped for a while now. I'm gonna go with Katamari Damacy because I remember way back when I even first heard about that game, like back in EGM, because they always used to do like a little sidebar of just, hey, here's the weird shit out of Japan that you're missing out on. And I read about that game and I'm like, that sounds really fucking stupid, but really fucking cool. And then it was like a couple months later and they announced that it was actually going to get localized and it was going to come with the price tag of $20.
Oh shit, I was like, lost him again.
Holy fucking shit. That's amazing.
Yeah,
and
it's still the best $20 I ever spent.
Yeah, I plunked down my pre-order as soon as I could get out to GameStop because I didn't fucking have a car at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And picked it up, and I still remember like that was a game that I could get up just slightly early in the morning. Like, didn't even have to get up too early. I could get up just a couple minutes early every morning and get in a level before school, and just there was something real fucking special about that.
Yeah.
And it was just experiencing that music for the first time, like how good that soundtrack was, and just all the weird, quirky things going on. They're like, oh yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's a lot of non sequiturs, but it was neat to see all of that for the first time. I fucking loved it. It was like still to this day probably the best $20 I've ever spent on a game.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's the best $20 I ever spent. You know what the best $10 I ever spent was? It's actually Yakuza 0. For $10. like just thinking that like that game, I lasted almost 90 hours and it only cost me $10. I'm like, man, here I am dropping $60 on games that I only play for like not even 20 hours.
Okay, I should probably just say mine and get out of here.
Yep.
Okay.
But let me time to think about mine. Well, and then everyone can just tell me what theirs are like, or I'll just list it out. But
I said Katamari.
I can't think of any for mine. I'd have to think about it, but I can maybe have an answer the next time we do this.
Well, I would go with Undertale because while it's not like one of my absolute favorites, it's one of those games that you will never have the same playthrough when you know what to expect. And
you know what? That's a good answer, especially since
Fair point.
Like when I first played that, like I wasn't really aware of the hype behind it. I just heard that it was pretty good and it was inspired by Earthbound. So I'm like, oh, I'll give it a shot. And like, yeah, I didn't expect it to love it as much as I did. But after I finished it, like then it kind of fell into so popular that people hate it almost territory. And like, yeah, so now it's kind of hard to go back and enjoy it quite as much as I did.
It's not even just that. It's just, I mean, the game itself too, like plays a lot like with your expectations. And
would you say it subverts your expectations?
Not necessarily. I mean, in all seriousness, it's not really. It's more like it plays on the fact that like if you've like played a lot of video games, you kind of expect certain things, and like they do just kind of like turn that on its head. I wouldn't necessarily say subvert.
Well, and also just knowing what to expect drastically changes how you view things as you go through and influences your decisions.
So yeah, that's what I mean. Like you never will have a same playthrough. Like it's like still not like one of my favorite games, but I did enjoy it enough that I think like, yeah, I wouldn't mind just doing that again.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap before Andy fully dies.
I promise, Sarah. Next time we do this, I'll come up with an answer and we can start it off.
Well, we'll have a different question then. So
the question will be different, but we'll hold to it.
I'll answer that right off the bat.
That's what we'll start the episode with is Nick's answer.
Yeah, and then you guys
finally
can
making good on his promises.
Don't go too far, Dave.
But
like finishing that demo.
Shut up.
Hopefully my internet is better by then.
All right, part 2 of the Final Fantasy 7. What you might call this nut? Yeah, that's the episode. What you nuts?
It's the Pillow Talk remake.
Oh.
Wait, you're telling me this one was part 2?
No.
Well, like you almost made like I don't know. Mind. Like I don't know the way you worded that almost sounded like you're referring to this one as part 2, and I'm like, what did I? I know I wasn't present. This is the first time I've been present, but like,
you slept through the majority of part 2. You're drunk. Give me your keys. Okay. I'll give you my keys so I can drive home from home, or not drive home from home. Mail them to me.
I'll mail them to you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Later, internet.
All right.
Bye.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.